Hello, this is the station. I'm Carlos Lumix. We've got a special show for you tonight. We've got a gentleman who mixes and makes drinks. His name is Hiroki Yamada. Hiroki, how did you get started in mixing drinks and being a bartender?
I can't remember the exact year. I think it was 2002. I moved from Florida. I'm originally from Florida, and I moved from Florida to California. And at the time, I moved in with my mom, who lived in Upland, and I was intrigued a little prior to that, but I never really took any initiative. So then I was looking into bartending school. A lot of my colleagues never liked it, but I think it was a great way to just get started and learn.
But what was the actual incentive to do that? Did you just like dealing with people, like crowds, you like parties? I would have thought that unless you just like the whole idea of mixing drinks and then trying them out yourself, I don't know.
When I was in college, I did like mixing drinks. I did like just playing around with different type of liquors and making different things. That's one of my things. I was never I was never an extrovert. I was more of an introvert. So that bartending to me would helped me just talk to people overall, because I would just be mainly by myself hanging out with. I had like a handful of friends, but I was never really a people person. So it helped me, pushed me to talk to people.
So it actually sort of forced you into sort of a different mode that you really weren't, let's say, acclimatized to in dealing with people and being more friendly and engrossing in conversations. Is that what you?
Yeah.
But I was curious about. You went to bartending school, correct?
Yes.
What's the first thing they teach you in bartending school?
We're talking about 2002, mind you.
Drinks have changed that much?
Well, drinks overall have not. I guess from what they told me, this was up in Covina where I went to school. It was National Bartender School, and they focused a lot with martinis, where they said a lot of their chains did not, mainly because Arcadia or Covina was next to Arcadia, which was next to Pasadena, all around that area. So the clientele were used to drinking more martini styles versus just your regular Mai Tais or mojitos. You know, if I were to be at the beach, you have the clientele that want more beach drinks, pina coladas, Mai Tais, strawberry daiquiris, margaritas, versus the valley where they're...
Would you consider those beach drinks pop drinks? There was the term that was used some back in the 80s called pop drinks. They were made up, frivolous, fruity, tasty items that had a lot of chopped up stuff. And I remember them calling them pop drinks. That may have changed since the 80s, but...
Yeah, I've never heard of that terminology, but basically, those are all beach drinks. Anything fruity, not as much chopped up, but basically fruity and sweet. So that's what I would say.
In the bartending school, so do they teach you about certain types of glasses? And I think I'm not sure, but isn't there a word called jigger where it's a type of device that measures the drink that goes out?
Yes.
So it's the only term I know.
If you want to have a jigger with me, I could show you. Sure. Mine is slightly different than what most jiggers look like. It's the convenience of mine. Actually, looks like a measuring cup. This is how mine look like. Not necessarily everybody else's. You generally see like the little hourglass-looking jiggers, and those generally not all of them are going to be the same. They'll have different measurements. Mostly you have the 1 ounce, 2 ounce, or 1 1/4 ounce and 0.75 ounce. And a jigger generally is 1 1/4 ounce. That's when you make a drink like a simple drink, Jack and Coke, it's 1 1/4. That's why they always have a 1 1/4 and 0.75. Whereas this is wider. This could go up to 2 ounces, as you could see over there. The convenience with that is if you're making martinis, you're making Long Islands, you don't want to just keep on pouring. A martini will be 3 ounces. You don't want to pour 3 times in. That's just too slow. Long Island iced tea, you need more space than that. It's 2.5 ounces of liquor, so you want to actually pour it all at once versus just dab a couple at a time. And not every establishment requires to use a jigger. A lot of it will be free pour, but more bigger establishments would require jiggers. That would be like where I worked at the Hyatt. I can't say for sure any of the big chains, but I'm pretty sure they use it. At the Reef where I work currently, they definitely require us to use jiggers. But the smaller establishments where I first started, Tokyo Wacko, they did not require it. It's more free pour. From what I hear from other people, of course this is all hearsay, Yard House does not require it, but you are required to take a test, I believe every week, to make sure that you can pour properly, the proper amount.
Well, one of the things I often wondered is about how they replenish their supply. I mean, they must take inventory to find out whether the bartender's using too much or too little. The clients are getting soused unnecessarily. I was just curious about that and what you do about it.
Yes, every week they do have inventory, and of course it varies with each place. But most places I've worked, it's inventory every week. They'll determine how much liquor has been used. There's a little formula, and at the end it's what they call like a pour count. And as long as the percentage is within 15 to 20%, they're all right with that. If it gets to any higher, that means that somebody's overpouring.
Do they teach you about socializing with the customers, do and do not type of approaches? I mean, if they're too friendly or they're already blasted when they come in, are you supposed to size them up and find out if they can keep on drinking or not?
They do teach that part too. It's slightly separate. The things that they tell you, obviously, are the more common ones. And this is part of the National Bartender School itself. They'll tell you, like, don't talk about religion, politics. That's the common stuff. But they do offer training, which they have 2 different ones in California. One is called TIPS, the other is called LEAD. And they're both alcohol awareness classes. So in the TIPS class and the LEAD class, I believe there's another one too called STAR. But they then tell you how to gauge people and what to say in order to, if you have to cut them off.
So do you tell them politely that they've had too much, or do you always make an inquiry? Did you drive yourself here? That sort of thing.
Working at the hotel, I learned that a lot of people like to say, just as long as they're not driving, they're a little bit better. That's actually not true at all. There's a lot more to that. I mean, one of the issues we had for getting people over intoxicated is they can still trip over anything until they get to the room. And as soon as they get to the room, all is fine. It's up to them. It's just like their room is their house. We can't do anything about it. But prior to that is the issue. It's like even the smallest obstacle is getting up the elevator or whatnot.
You mean they need assistance, or you have to watch them as they do that, but once they're in the room, they're on their own?
They don't need assistance, but we want to make sure that it's not to the point that they need that there could be any issues. Because then obviously the hotel would be liable.
So if they fell down in the lobby and split their head open, then you would be liable. That's a very interesting thing. I didn't realize there was a cutoff point. I think that also on cruise ships they have that problem. That's why there are a lot of people who are drunk and they party all the time on cruise ships. They go into the room and then they go over the balcony and they're gone. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It was just on the news recently about a couple that went out. They were so bombed they went over the side together. I'm not laughing, but I am laughing. But that's a cruise ship. I think you're confined. I mean, that's a party thing anyway. I'm not a cruise person, but I understand all they want to do is eat and drink and party.
Yeah, mainly because it's all you can eat and all you could drink. That's my guess. I'm not fully sure. I've never been on a cruise either.
No, I haven't either. I looked at it, and since they had a bad reputation for all kinds of other problems, running ashore and crashing into each other, I thought, and some of them turned into floating toilets because they're so bad.
Yeah.
So I said, no way, I'm not interested in that. But getting back to bartending school, what's the first set of basic drinks they teach you to make?
So the first set of drinks would be the basics. Obviously, the one liquor drinks, and that's how they phrased it as, if I recall, would be like your rum and coke, your vodka tonic, things like that. But then when you get into the two liquor or even one plus other mixers like a Collins, Tom Collins, John Collins, vodka Collins. So that's just like a vodka soda with sour mix or sweet and sour mix, however you want to call it. Margaritas. It's a very popular two liquor drink because you have tequila and triple sec. They start out with those, which are generally easier, and then they work their way up to like Mai Tais, where you have maybe one or two liquors, but a lot of different ingredients in addition to that. Long Island iced teas and its family, so that would be like Long Beach. And then they have the LA water, which is something I learned more recent when I worked at KDB's.
That's a drink, LA water?
LA water, yeah. It looks exactly how it sounds, honestly.
It doesn't sound very appetizing.
It's actually not bad if you like Long Island iced teas. It's a slightly sweeter version, but it's murky looking.
Is that a popular drink now, the LA River?
LA water.
LA water.
I wouldn't say it's popular, but when I was working at KDB's, it was ordered quite often, I would have to say. But not often enough not like a Long Island or something like that.
Are there fads of drinks that come and go? I mean, things get real popular for a while and then they fade away and then something else takes its place?
That's the hard thing to gauge for me personally, because I've been in different environments. I've never stayed in any one bar for, I'd say, 2-3 years. I've worked when I started bartending. I worked in a restaurant in Pasadena, or in Arcadia, and then same restaurant in Pasadena. So similar fads there with their drinks. But then I went over to working at the pool. Then from the pool, I worked a hotel. And then I worked at KDB's, which is a sports bar. So every place has its own set of drinks. I wouldn't have to make some drinks at certain places. I would have to make more of other places. Again, KDB's is where I learned how to make LA water, because I'd never heard of it until then. Mojitos were more common there versus in Arcadia. So fads and whatnot, I've heard of like obviously back in the 70s, drinks that were made that we don't make anymore, like Harvey Wallbanger or mint juleps. We just don't make those as much. But I can't gauge too much on fads of other drinks. Manhattans were popular, are actually popular at the Reef, and were popular when I was working at in Arcadia. But they were not popular at all at KDB's because it's a different clientele. They were definitely not popular at pool because no one wants to drink a Manhattan at a pool. So,
I have a friend who's 90, well, close to 90, and he's always talking about having a highball. And that's, from what I understand, that's a very old term that goes back to the 20s or 1920s and the 1930s. So exactly what is in a highball? Or can it be anything?
wow, that's been a very long time since I never even had to make one. I just only learned about it. And I honestly, I cannot remember what's in a highball. I'm assuming it's a vodka-based drink.
Does our cameraman know anything about that?
Don't know what's in it.
I can tell you a lot of the drinks, not a lot, some of the drinks are also names of the glasses, like you were asking before,
Yeah.
the glassware. So highball is a glassware, as well as I mentioned before, Collins is also a glassware too.
I mean, it's a special glass you would drink it out of?
Yes.
Is it its shape or?
It's shape and amount of alcohol that it could fit, or how much volume of the glass is. So a highball would be Think thinner than this pint glass. I would say actually about the size of this, but definitely thinner, so it's not as wide. Narrower, I guess. A Collins glass is similar, except just slightly more. So instead of 12 ounces, it would be 16, 18 ounces.
Which is just a device here.
Yes.
That's the sugar. That holds, how much does that hold?
This holds up to 2 ounces.
2 ounces.
Well, it holds more than that, but the line goes up to 2 ounces, which is convenient enough for most drinks. Yeah, and even assume the top is like half an ounce, so that's 2.5 ounces, and that's almost all drinks. Nothing. Only pure martinis can get more than that, which is 3 ounces. Other than that, 2.5 ounces is more than enough for almost everything else.
Wow, that's quite a bit.
So, besides the Collins, which is slightly taller than this, and then the highball, there more common ones would be like they have different names for it. Some people call them bucket glasses. Other people call them double old fashions. And in fact, an old fashioned is a drink as well as a glass itself, because it's smaller than an actual bucket glass, and hence when they call it double old fashioned, it's double the size.
Tonight, could you make us some sort of a drink that you could illustrate that's common? I see you brought your wares with you.
I did. A couple ingredients to make a Long Island, but I can still make it to
So you can make us a Long Island or
a
something?
Long Island iced tea and a mojito. Something.
Do you need ice for this one?
I actually would need some ice, just enough to fill up these 2 glasses. So that's a half ounce of each. And again, since I'm missing 2 ingredients, I'm going to put 2 more common ones, which would be the vodka, which won't really alter the flavor, and the rum, which make it a little bit sweeter. This is sweet and sour. Some people make their own.
Is it a fruit juice?
It's almost like lemonade. It's very similar to lemonade. So it's if you wanted to make your own, you would just do a little bit of lemons, limes, and ideally lemon, lime, orange, kind of mixed in, but more of the lemon flavored, and then a little bit of simple syrup. Because Long Island obviously is colored like an iced tea. And one other thing, I didn't bring our straws. So I don't know if you wanted to taste that. And again, I don't have any straws with me, but
I've got straws.
perfect. So that's one. The second one would be the mojito. And mojitos are one of the ones that if a lot of people order a handful of mojitos at the same time, the bartender obviously is not going to be as happy because it slows down the process. But otherwise, it's not too bad. Oh, thank you.
In fact, as I understand, that was one of the most hated drinks that bartenders like to make.
It is. The main reason is, so an average drink will take 15 seconds to make or so. I mean, that didn't take too long, and mind you, I had to reach and set up everything. I had everything set up originally, know where everything is. I don't have to look at anything. I just simply pull and pour, pull and pour. Whereas mojito, as you can see, this is even pulling and pouring. I have to take this with a little bit of simple syrup, and this is club soda, very similar to that Pellegrino you're drinking. Instead of simple syrup, I'm just going to use again sweet and sour because it's a decent substitute with the lime juice added to it. Of course, ideally you would want to take simple syrup and lime juice. And the key to this is a muddler has these little, I don't know, teeth, and you're taking that, grasping it with the mint, and kind of crushing it with turning it at the same time. If you want it fresh and add a little extra lime onto it, best thing to do is actually just squeeze a lime inside it. And let's see if I actually have this right off the bat. I actually have it. I have a lime squeezer.
Nice squeezer.
Thank you.
Oh, sounds like a torture device.
Does a really good job squeezing. I've tried with my like force grip and it's not as good. It's actually pretty terrible. Okay, with that, I have almost, I just need a little rum. In this case, depending on the venue, it's either 1.5 ounces or 2 ounces. I'm gonna put 2 ounces. And a lot of drinks, and sometimes I'll do it even with my Long Islands. I'll like to shake it up. However, with Long Islands, not everybody likes shaken up because then they can't taste the alcohol as much. The alcohol, when you're pouring, that's the first thing you pour is the alcohol. So when people sip, that's the first thing they taste. But when you shake it up, which minus the top part of the Coke generally, when you shake it up, you don't have the alcohol taste as much because it's not as harsh. So with that, people complain it's not as strong. In reality, it's just as strong. You're just not putting the alcohol in the very bottom.
You're sort of like a pharmacist.
How so?
Mixing, because I do that.
How they mix the...
Yes, they grind things up. Well, that was the old way they used to do it.
So... Oops.
Approximately, as you're working here, approximately how many drinks do you have committed to your memory?
Oh. Back in the day, I could say a lot more. I haven't bartended as much as I used to. So I would... my guess it's 50 to 75.
Wow.
But a lot of them are very similar. So if you're talking about a Long Island iced tea, which is vodka, rum, gin, tequila, triple sec, sweet, sour, and Coke, versus the Adios, which is the same 4 ingredients I mentioned, vodka, rum, gin, tequila, instead add blue curacao, sweet and sour, and Sprite. It's just the small variations is easy to remember. And then you have the simple ones like your Tom Collins, again, variations, vodka Collins, John Collins, and I mean, technically it's simple things like a Cuba Libre. That's nothing but a rum and Coke with lime. Instead of saying a vodka orange juice, that's a screwdriver. So those are just like simple things to just remember because they're so easy.
What would be the cost of these 2 drinks?
At the bar I currently work, I believe mojito is $9 and Long Island is like $9.25. Other places I've seen it as cheap as $7.50 to $8. I think KDB's was $8. I cannot remember. It's been a few years, and it's insane to see how much they really spend on alcohol versus how much they charge.
Oh.
I mean, the establishment must get these at a real discount price, right?
They do. The thing that people don't realize is they make more money on their well drinks. The well drinks are the ones that are they literally come from the well, which is like down below where they pull. Most of them are no names, so they're for the most part like Barton type products for vodkas, trying to think the other ones like Early Time for whiskey, and they get them for like maybe $2 for a bottle. Mind you, their bottles they buy are 1 liter, so they get it for maybe $2.50 on a bottle. And we always want to approximate how many drinks you could get from a single bottle, and then calculate it from there. So a 1 liter bottle will get you about 20. Anywhere from it should get you 27 drinks, I think it is, because you divide that by 1 1/4, and that's what, as I mentioned before, like something like a Jack and Coke or a rum and Coke. That's a 1 1/4 ounce of liquor, and then the whatever mixer you have to that. So again, you assume it's 27, but obviously with the whole overpouring extra drinks with different amount of liquor, it could be to 21. But still, you got to think about it. 21 drinks you can make out of bottle that costs $2.50,
Yeah.
and they charge you $5
There's
per drink.
a huge profit margin.
And sodas are even a crazier profit margin, which is why they can offer all you can drink, because we have those big, huge, I don't think there's 20-pound cartons to put in, and they can last a few weeks, and that's a lot of drinks we're pouring in a few weeks. So an average size glass of, let's say, Coca-Cola, the establishments spends about 2 cents, I would have to say.
Wow.
I don't think it could be any more than that,
Wow.
because they probably buy those carton things for $50, $60. You got to divide it by maybe 1,000.
Wow.
Throwing numbers, but
huge.
I don't think it could be more than that. It could be, if I'm wrong, it's probably 10 cents, but I doubt it's 10 cents. It has to be at least 2 cents. That's my guess.
That's quite interesting. So we have two very popular drinks here that, wow, the cost margin is really low.
Yeah. When people, actually, when you were mentioning popular, that when people want to order, a lot of times, especially the newbies, they're like, "What can you make me that'll get me really messed up quickly?" Well,
Is that a question they ask you?
yeah, that's a question that's asked pretty often when it comes to banquets. Actually, when it comes to the main bar, the people I'll ask you are the younger crowds, the people that just turned 21 who don't know too much. But I always obviously tell them Long Island iced teas. That's they'll ask us two things: what's the strongest drink, and what's the very similar? What's the drink that couldn't get me messed up the quickest? So obviously, I started just being smart with people, because I started not liking that question. What's the strongest drink? Like, in reality, the strongest drink you ever want to drink that could get you messed up the fastest is anything straight. You add anything else, it's not as strong anymore. So I tell that to people. When people say they want something refreshing, I always tell them mojito, because it actually is a refreshing drink. I mean, mints are really refreshing.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you go to a new establishment, do they give you a test on site?
They do. They generally do 2 parts. Most places will give you a paper test of named what's in a Mai Tai, what's in a Bay Breeze, what's in a Sea Breeze, but more so they want to make sure that you know different type of brands. So they'll say name 8 different types of vodkas, name 4 different types of rums, name 6 different types of tequilas, so on and so forth for every different type of alcohol there are. And I remember counting just one spot where they made me make a few drinks, which is very uncomfortable since you have no idea where anything is, and you're put on the spot with live guests, not even with management, but with live guests. And I was making drinks. I'm like trying to search for where everything's located. Where's the grenadine? Where's the gin? Where's the Bacardi? So definitely paper test is very common to know your knowledge, and at least making a couple drinks, but not only one time I've dealt with live guests. Most people do it with management themselves, which makes it easier, because they understand you're still learning where everything's located, whereas a guest, they don't understand that.
Yeah.
Well, tonight's guest was Hiroki Yamada, our bartender for this evening, and this has been The Station. I'm Carlos Lumix. Hiroki Yamada, eat your heart out. This is my version of a drink. This is the Flint, Michigan water with a Love Canal olive. Are you still rolling? I'm not going to drink this bloody thing. Oh, God.